The Scariest Things Police Have Seen, Part 42. This story was sent to me by a police officer in California who wished to be anonymous. On June 17, 2002, an air tanker crashed near Walker, California, while on a firefighting mission. The crash was even caught on camera. An officer saw the crash and ran to it. While running through the forest, he came upon 3 men in flight suits who seemed dazed and confused. He asked them if they saw the crash, but they wouldn't respond to him. Since they weren't helpful, he continued on. When he got to the crash site, he found that all passengers on board were killed. There were 3 men on board that plane. The officer went back to where he saw the men in the forest, but he couldn't find them anywhere. No one else who responded to the crash site had seen them. The officer then realized that the 3 men he saw in the forest were the spirits of the crew members that died that day.
Believe it or not, this is a well-documented true story. In 1947, an American ship picked up a horrifying distress signal coming from an unidentified vessel. The first transmission was all officers, including the captain, are dead. The next transmission was the whole crew is dead. The last transmission was I die, and then silence. The Americans trace the signal back to a ship that's drifting off in the middle of the Indian Ocean. They quickly assemble a rescue team who boards the ship. They find the entire crew has perished in the exact same position. They are on their backs with their hands up as if fighting with some unseen force, and they look like this. There was no physical damage to the bodies or to the ship itself. However, even though it was 100 degrees outside, it was 40 degrees on the ship, and the bodies were rapidly decomposing. As soon as they tie up the ship to tow it in, it explodes, and then it sinks. To this day, no one knows what happened inside of that ship. Some say it was a chemical leak, others aren't so sure.
I'm going to be telling you a scary childhood story. My family did not have a lot of money. So when my dad lost his job, it forced us out of our house into a new house. My parents found this very cozy 4-bedroom home on the west side of Chicago. They bought it willingly knowing that someone was murdered there 3 years earlier. But because of the murder, the house was way cheaper than normal. I didn't know about the murder until I was way older. So moving there when I was only 6 years old didn't really seem like a big deal to me. I had no idea. That was until I started seeing someone in my room constantly. Years later, I found out the person was murdered in my room. Even though I was just 6 years old, my room was in the basement because I was the oldest out of all the siblings. This man that I would see in my room was not happy. It was almost like he was angry that I was in the room. It was like he was claiming it for himself. He would constantly tell me to get out. Stay tuned for part 2.
Disturbing Facts That Will Ruin Your Day, Part 9. You can't die of old age. Only from diseases brought on by age. This man was buying cigarettes from his hospital bed in 1950. After death, the enzymes from your digestive system begin to digest your body. You can get stuck on a plain toilet if you flush while sitting down, and your body forms a perfect seal on the vacuum toilet.
If you're ever walking and hear a sound behind you, look up, for it might be the Gashadokuru. The Gashadokuru are skeleton giants who walk around in the middle of the night. If they see a human, they will quietly walk up behind them, bite off their head, and drink their spraying blood. Soldiers that die on the field and people that die of starvation usually do not have their final rites read. In Japanese culture, that means that their soul cannot pass on and they're reborn as a hungry ghost. When the bones of hundreds of those souls gather together, they become the skeleton monster known as Gashadokuru. If you're a fan of monsters, scary stories, and lore, please support this channel. Thank you guys.